What's up, long players? Welcome back to the Long Play Listening Party, the show where we go deep on local music, writing, recording, inspiration, the music business, irons in the fire, gear, and whatever else sounds good to us. I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records. Nate Holt, my co-host. What's going on, my friends?
Howie, JNabe, what's up?
What's up? Hello.
Yes, a guest, JNabe, rapper from Kansas City. What's going on, JNabe?
Not much, just working on music, trying to stay inspired and not get burned out.
And that's kind of your whole thing, right? Is that inspiration's a big deal to you? I'm going off, I've been reading on your website and things, and I know that's important to you. But Nate, I promised you the first question, so why don't you take it away, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily like a pinpoint question, but kind of what we were saying just a minute ago is like I'm just kind of meeting you, but I've seen you put out music and various other things that you might be into, and so I just kind of wanted to get a feel for sort of what your focus is on now. You mentioned you first released music in 2020, but obviously you've probably been at it longer than that. So I guess just it sounds more simple than it is, but maybe just a background on who you are and kind of what you're about.
Sure. I grew up in Pennsylvania, where I went to like a school where like everyone like played an instrument. So I kind of fell into a trap where my parents were like, you have to play instruments. You have to be like everyone else. But then I was never interested in it. And I think that's kind of what made me not like music for a while, because I was told to like play this piece, play that piece. And I feel like I had no creativity over it because I was just kind of like reciprocating what was already on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of like I would practice, but then there would be like winter breaks, and then the music teacher would always know I'm not practicing, even though I said I would, or said I did, because my instrument was so out of tune. So I was just like, I was probably one of those annoying students where like everyone else kind of wanted to be there, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not interested.
Okay.
But it came around at some point, because eventually you did find your internal creativity.
Yeah, I found it a lot more interesting when I was like creating it instead of just like playing other songs, because I kind of found it repetitive a little bit. Like, just practice your scales and then you too can play this song.
Yeah,
I was just like, I wasn't interested in that part of it.
What instrument did you pick up first, or?
Well, I think they all kind of came. Well, I think piano was the first instrument that my parents made me play.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't too good with playing both hands, like the melody and the chords and things like that. I was only good at playing melody because I just didn't have like the dexterity to play both.
Yeah.
And then after that, tenor saxophone and viola came in.
Cool.
Do you remember like the first thing you did for yourself? Like the first time you wrote something or played something that wasn't off the page and wasn't something that somebody told you to do?
I just remember watching Super Hot Fire back in the day. If you remember him, he's like, but I'm not a rapper. Like after every line he does in his battle rapping. So I would like try to freestyle and it would be terrible. But he would say stuff like, I have glasses, I have hoodies, and I can see everything you're doing, or something like these really like basic bars. But I was like, man, this guy's so fire. And then every single time you say a line, you have like all his friends behind going, oh! So I just like try to make the most basic rhymes, but I wasn't really good at it. And I was just like, I would just try, but I was like, man, these are really bad.
But no one starts good, right? Like,
well, I mean, it's all part of it. I mean, you kind of, anything you do, I think you take some sort of good and some sort of bad out of it. The ratio could vary, but it's all learning and kind of building your foundation.
Yeah, for sure. And so I feel like when I'm like working on music, I feel like 99% of the time I'm bad, and there's only that 1% that comes in every month or so.
Hey, that's I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, that's kind of how I feel like it goes a lot. And so, and that's that, but that, one track or that, 2 or 3% keeps you going,
Right. And sometimes you have to churn through all that other material to find that 1% that you can then save and work with and eventually share or whatever. So I know, JNabe, you put a lot of singles and EPs and stuff on Spotify. Do you talk us through? So we're going to get to the album that's coming, but like talk us through sort of maybe your first song you released, if you remember that, and what the strategy has been up to this point, not including the new stuff.
I think the first song I released was probably, I believe it was probably "You Know Me," which was the funny thing about that song is I accidentally released the wrong version of it. Like for some reason, I thought I was like super hardcore. Like this was back like 2020 probably when I thought I was like I had to be like hard and be like all cool. So there's a line at the end where it's like, "You never heard an Asian," and then bad word like me, and I was like, I released the wrong version. But I'm like, oh, it's too late now. I just never checked. And like I didn't really know what I was doing. But the strategy is that there was no strategy or is no strategy. Just kind of like releasing music, and like it's kind of more for me to like listen back. I'm like, oh, I got better, and then it's like the goal was always just to like put out everything, I guess. And then if a song's bad, it's just bad. It just kind of like shows the journey of how I progressed as a musician.
Absolutely. And you just, you learn something maybe and you move on. I think that's a super, super healthy approach. So then, and we're going to hear some music in just a second, but like, tell us what we're going to be hearing music from tonight. We're going to listen to 4 songs. Where do they come from?
A lot of the inspiration came from my girlfriend Ava since we got into a relationship. So it's like talking about like love songs and stuff like that. But we tried to do love songs in a way that's like hasn't been done before, which is really hard. But it was just kind of like what's been happening in my life recently, and it talks about a little bit of the story and just like how we met and things like that. So it's kind of more of a personal album, but we try to put it in a way that's digestible for like people in general.
Yeah.
Awesome. And go ahead, Nate.
Sorry, I just had to catch you before you started. I just wanted to ask, I mean, I know you sent us a couple of tracks from, the album we're going to discuss. And then, I asked, I think, for a couple more just to, hear more of your music. And, I was kind of wanting to, 'cause, I mean, you've got a lot of stuff up on Bandcamp, and I know that you're putting stuff out, or, at one point you were putting stuff out like every week or something like that. But I didn't know how, what you would want to listen to, or if that was even cool, if I grabbed stuff without you, running it by you. But I guess I'm just curious as to, everything that you, all the singles and stuff that you can find from you. Were they just kind of getting that, just that rhythm, that experience, that kind of seeing, what goes out of the release, or trying to see if there's any sort of, I guess, pattern that you can see to maybe get more attention on them? Or I guess the main question is, you've got a lot of music out there, but when we were like, hey, let's like hear some of your stuff, you were, you gave, I'm imagining you gave us the stuff that you're, most proud of or is most complete. But what, I guess, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but what kept you from sending us more stuff? Or, and I'm not complaining at all. I'm just, I was curious, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that people can hear.
It's just that my main focus right now is kind of working on this album that's coming out, because it's actually like a project where I feel like I have more experience as a musician, and I'm actually like putting a pretty solid like budget financially behind it, and the other songs were what I call more of like pleasure projects, where it's just like I'll just toss it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think this album I'm taking it a little bit more seriously than I usually do with my other songs.
Okay, that makes sense, man. That's totally yeah. I mean, I think I wish I had the kind of just I don't know, the gumption, I guess, to do that earlier too. I think that would have I think I would have gained a lot more out of it than I did just keeping stuff to myself until I was like, okay, I think it's
yeah,
good.
because like I found a mentor that like I met in Florida. He goes by Nawlage, so he's like a dancehall artist. But the number one thing he told me when I met him was like, when are you gonna release something? Because he's like, he meets too many artists that overthink all the time and never release anything. So he's like, you guys start doing it before you never do it. And then you're like, wake up, and then like you're like on your deathbed. He's like, I never released a song. So I might have taken it too much to the extreme where I just release everything, but it makes me feel a little bit better about myself, I guess, because it feels like I'm being productive. But at the end of the day, it might not be a good strategy, but I just kind of do it more for myself. So
I love it. I really appreciate and agree with that, because I think, I mean, we learn so much more from the release, right? Like when it's sitting on your hard drive or on your tape or whatever, and you're thinking about it, the learning process can be pretty slow. And I think in a lot of cases where when you put it out and you get some feedback and you hear with other people's ears as they listen to it, you learn so much faster and you improve so much faster. And so that's my experience anyway. Like, and I'm definitely a fan of, absolutely get it out there. So I'm going to play, we talked about it. Let's hear some music. I'm going to play 2002 Acura RL, but JNabe, do you have an album title and a release date? The people will want to know.
Right now, the album's probably going to be called Namegah, and we're shooting for an August 18th release date.
Okay. So we are really premiering some stuff here.
Yep.
Nice.
You know it's love when I can pull up in an Acura. I can take you to lunch, me and you in my Acura. It's a 2002, and you still whip it like it's fast enough. Baby, you're perfect, and you never really ask for much, while the other girls act up.
I always think about the nights we drive around, not going nowhere. Just wanna ride around with you in that Acura. Don't have to buy me diamonds, don't have to give me Cartier. You know I'm always down, and I with you.
I pull up in a scene in a gold RL, like it's 2003. When 2020.
Oh, this is a true story, personal experience, I'm guessing, yeah?
Yep.
Absolutely.
I don't give a beep. You don't gotta say behave. JNabe the DBA. We can stray for the day. You and me, ETA. Where we stay, what I'm saying. You proof of my GPS.
I guess just a general question. How do you, I guess, come up with, the music, or how do you write or arrange stuff? Do you play personally, or do you go, use a lot of samples, or what's that process like for you?
A lot of it's like I didn't make the beats on this album, but a lot of it was like playing into a MIDI keyboard and like setting up drums and just like playing the drums through like FL Studio.
Yeah.
And just like getting it on the racks and stuff like that.
Oh, that's interesting. So you like trigger drums in FL Studio?
Yeah.
Right.
She don't hide it. I know the feel. Her love is real, and it's not hard to translate your love like my mother's skills. I'll show you my will. I'm a Jersey kid, trying to turn up. Like
I really hear the evolution that you were talking about.
Like Kansas City did. Love when I can pull up in an Acura. I can take you to lunch.
So when you say you didn't make the beats on this record, Do you work with anybody, or
Yeah, so
and like I said, I mean, we'll just ask questions, and if you
yeah.
don't want to answer, man, just say,
Yeah.
hold
So
that.
like on this album, I'm working together with my mentor who goes by Nawlage, who I kind of mentioned before.
Okay.
But he's pretty much been mentoring me through the whole process and really trying to like push me to the next level of what he thinks I could do musically.
You know I'm always down.
Nice.
How did you guys connect?
It was kind of funny. I was in Florida to go to Disney World. So I met this girl named She, who's like a Canadian singer, and sometimes she comes down to Florida. So I asked her, hey, are you in Florida to like meet up? And she said, oh no, I'm not, but my business partner, like music business partner, Nawlage, is in Tampa. So you can try to reach out to him. So we linked up, and then I had a free day where I wasn't going to Disney. So we took about a 2.5-hour drive to go meet him. And that kind of evolved into work on an album together where I get a lot of help that I need, and he gets to put his little, I call it like magic sparkle on things. Because he brings a lot of experience to the table that I necessarily don't have yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys must have really like hit it off well at that meeting, right? To work on a whole album together.
Yeah, like it kind of turned into like, he's almost like my bigger brother and I'm like the little brother type scenario. Because like we just hit things off very well. And then we were just able to relate to each other. So everything just kind of happened organically.
That's
nice,
man. Yeah, that's kind of it's nice when that stuff happens because it's stuff that you don't necessarily expect, even though, and it might be something that you're, consciously, looking for and not really finding, but when you're not, it just happens. You don't expect like from where it's happening or how it happens, but it just,
it's kind of weird how that stuff happens because I was actively looking for somebody, and also right when I'm not looking, it's like, oh, here's somebody. And I was like, oh, now I have to go meet them.
yeah. I think I can relate to that.
Sometimes that's how it happens, and like musical relationships, when they're great, they're really precious and valuable.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's keep it going. We're going to listen to another track off the album, Madame Downey. Here we go.
If I was to fall again, I'd be choosing just to start all over. If I was to call you a friend, then why don't I feel like it's over? Loving you's all I know. If loving you's all I know, I can settle down.
This is nice, man. This has me all pumped up for August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's the other vocalist?
She goes by Leah Reese.
Okay. We should link to all her stuff as well. And is she on like lots of songs throughout the album, or did I just happen to pick two that she's on?
Oh no, the first song was featuring another lady called Alexandra Vasquez.
Okay.
He's a singer out of New York.
Gotcha.
So do you, have you kind of built a network or I guess how do you?
Well, Leah Reese is my girlfriend's sister, so I guess you can call that part of the network. But then a lot of the network I kind of borrowed from my mentor.
Yeah.
He was just kind of like, I have some people who might sound good on the album and we'll try it out, and it kind of just worked out that way.
That's awesome, man. That's when I first started writing music, it was mostly instrumental, and I quickly was like, man, really wish I had like someone who would write lyrics or sing or something. And it's nice to have somebody to kind of like, hey, I got some people that might into it and then actually get it done, that sounds good too.
So we can settle down. Loving you is all I know, all I know. Loving you is all I know, all I know. Peace loving, self-driven, self-giving love, but not to other women. If I were to fall again, leave and fall for you. Never switched up from high school, it's just a haiku. I like you, I wouldn't just say. I was too shy to tell you back in the day. Back in the day, when I had no meds. Back in the day, when you were speaking French. Back in the day, when Falcon Time was a vet.
I think this is you're talking here about an experience I think a lot of us can relate to. But I also like the details you're putting in, right?
Yeah.
If I was a call your friend, then why don't I feel like it's over? Loving you's all I know. If loving you's all I know.
So you said you use or have used FL Studio. Is that your main basic compositional tool?
Yeah, that's my main one, but I'm not too good at making beats yet, so my mentor was the one who was behind the scenes making all the beats on the album.
Do you do any, like, a lot of the production or arranging or?
I did on this album, I did most of the recording.
Cool.
And a little bit of the songwriting, but my mentor did most of the songwriting. It was just like a lot of conversations about like talking about my life. He's like, there's a song, there's a song, there's a song. And then like he would put me on mute and then he's like, tell me a little bit more. I'm like, okay, there we go, more lyrics. So it's kind of like going back and forth, like, and getting my story like into an album.
That's amazing, man.
That's a great idea. And honestly, it's never occurred to me to work like that before, but that makes so much sense to just talk about what you're going through or what's on your mind or whatever, and have someone else listen for those song ideas.
Yeah.
That's a great technique that like anyone listening, man, I want to experiment with that technique now, but like anyone listening, you could use that in any genre. Like that's a great, just different way of approaching coming up with song ideas.
I found that approach to be really effective because when I worked with other songwriters before, you're kind of like trying to force the song. And then sometimes it just turns out to be like really generic, I feel like. But the thing my mentor talked about in the past is he was always a big advocate for making friends with producers and DJs. And he has a DJ that goes by DJ Styles. And then they would go back and forth talking about things and make songs that were therapeutic for like their situation. So if like something sucked, like, oh, I asked this girl out, but she doesn't like me. And then I'm gonna make this song about her because I'm mad that she didn't say yes to my like date proposal or something. Like it's kind of like just creating things that are like organically already there, but then just putting into a story and into a song.
Which is harder than it sounds, because I've tried to write my own lyrics and that kind of stuff, and it's just it always is like not that great, cheesy, or at least, to me, everything's just kind of like, yes, just not, it's hard to spark a fire.
Yeah.
And part of that's being probably too critical, even though, I think I can be somewhat objective about what I think is good and bad. And if I don't like it, then it's not good.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I need more life experiences sometimes, because then sometimes I just kind of get into a loop about like writing about the same things over and over again, but just in a different way. Yeah. It's like, man, I need to get out of the house more.
Well,
yes and no, right? Because like at the same time, like, I mean, the specifics change, but like there's a lot of experiences that
very common and
are very common, and we all get hungry. We all have different kinds of relationships that are sometimes great and sometimes a challenge. And if you went back through songs, it's going to be the same topics over and over again, right? And it's those details that make all the difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess thinking about how many people are successful just because they write about like smoking weed.
That's a built-in one.
It doesn't matter. It's how many songs. It's like, well, it's about smoking weed. So
it seems like the smoking weed market's only getting bigger, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely. I mean, Nate, you started a whole band about it, didn't you?
Did I?
I thought you did. Kind of, a little bit, or just the name.
What band is that?
Are you trolling me?
Are you talking about Ween?
No, I was talking about Semper Veritas.
Oh no, that's. I mean that has a little bit into it, but it's more of the, evergreen, constantly, growing. It's more of that. It's not.
Okay. So many shades of green.
It's not the adolescent take.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
I have something to do with some of that stuff, but anyway.
Yeah, that's
we're getting off track here, Howie.
We're off track. That's one point of view, one interpretation among many.
Right.
Well, this has been great. I think we'll leave it here for this week, but nobody go anywhere. We'll be back next week. 2 more songs and more conversation with JNabe. Keep it tuned to the Long Play Listening Party. Later, everybody.